Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Education Safeguarding Network meeting for March. And the theme this time is child exploitation, as it is Child Exploitation Day in Child Exploitation Week. So we've got some great speakers today. Without further ado, I'll move on to the next slide, all being well, if it works. Nothing's happening at the moment, so bear with me. There we go. There we go. Sorry. So just to mention, we've got today's session and another one if any of your colleagues miss it on the 27th of the 3rd. And so the link there for other people if you know that they want to join us on the second session. Some quick notices first before our main speakers. I'm going to race through these. So we've updated our team sheet, if you like, our team for the education safeguarding team. The people there that you may recognise: Sophie, Lisa Anderson-Kirby, our team manager, and Dawn from Family Connect now. And then we've got Jordan and Zoe, who are our team members who are in the MACPT, Child Protection Team. Amy Jade, who's in FAST Team. Hash, who's in the careers support and advisance counsellor for young people leaving care and asylum seekers. We've got Beverly Clifford as well in the same team. Heidi still continuing with our training at the moment, but Alex Proctor will be taking over after Easter, and our newest member of the team, Elaine, is going to be joining us very soon as our youth justice team member. So team is growing, and that's good news for you because it means more people to support you out in schools and settings. Okay, just a thank you, public thank you and farewell to Marina Kitchen. Some of you may know Marina. She's been our service manager for early help and targeted support, and originally knew Marina from when she was a CAF worker when I was at Walter Orton. So I just want to say thank you to her for all the hard work and for being our boss. And she moves on to a directorship role, assistant directorship role in Solihull. So all the best to Marina. So we've got a number of different sections of training still available to you: initial DSL, and safer recruitment, prevent training, and lots of other stuff from parent trainers as well. On top of that, there's an awful lot of other stuff which you'll see on a later slide. For example, domestic abuse training, which now is a part of the Practice and Learning Hub, and all of our training can be found on this section here, on this email address, where our training is still on offer. It carries on up till Easter, so you can book on there. And then will be an offer coming up after as well. So CSA training, a huge amount of training alone for this area. So Centre for Child Expertise of Sexual Abuse, huge amounts here that you can sign on for free. So please have a look at that. RSHE, as well as other areas that are useful and relevant to this subject. On the Loudmouth website, they've added Helping Hands, which is child exploitation for primary, Working for Marcus, which is child exploitation for secondary sessions, and a new one, Bully for You. And they offer also sessions on internet safety now, and they are accessible for all ages, colleges and SEND and special schools. So please do take advantage, and if you can link those people in and do a session tied into what we're doing today or other subjects, that's really good. We recommend that. More information on Prevent, and I've mentioned earlier, if you've already been on the heads briefing today, you will have heard me mention a really successful session yesterday on extreme right wing, building up knowledge of people on Prevent. There's another session coming up on Islamic extremism on the 24th. You can still sign up for that. We have a session coming up by popular demand on Martin's Law, which is about protecting your setting for extremism, for protecting your setting against terrorism. And there will potentially be a law which will mean that you'll have to have a nominated person before too long who can do the risk assessment as well as plan for evacuations and so on. So that's come out today. So I would jump on that. If you're at all interested and you were disappointed not to get on last time, I would suggest you sign up to that as quickly as you can. And then just an update on the websites. Warwickshire Safeguarding website and the West Midlands one are undergoing changes. So you may notice some of the policies and documents dropping off our website until the new policies are added on. So just making you aware of that. Lots of useful again, information from Catch 22 about understanding violence in young people. And I know Lisa in my team's been on that training and said it was absolutely amazing, really worthwhile. So information on that. A quick shout out to our youth service who offer support to schools and settings as well. So the email is at the bottom. They can do one-to-one work, and they are based in schools as well now. So if you're not accessing that service, find out more. There's a second slide here which tells you a little bit more about the types of work they do. There's a range of different activities they can do, and again the contact details are on the slide, so you'll get all of these slides with the bulletin at a later time. So all of that will be there. A quick mention, we're going to invite them to speak at our next session, Life Space, who are offering supervision for schools and settings. I believe it might be free, but we'll have to check on that. So we're going to be inviting them to speak at our next session, which will be in April. But if you want to contact them in advance, the details are on the screen. And the latest collection of newsletters are here: Couth, Fizz, Homes for Ukraine, and the Warwickshire Send newsletters, all in one place for you. You may have been on the heads briefing earlier, and that included Michelle from Public Health talking about smoke-free generation and vaping, and there are links from vaping to child exploitation, as it's something that can get young people hooked into a relationship which makes them dependent. So there are slides on that. Also related to this subject and violence are the VR headset initiative, which is aimed at knife crime. So that is available in all parts of the county, and different boroughs have different amounts of headsets. Please do utilise that in your local area, and Alicia's details are at the bottom of there. Some areas I think they're only available till June, so make the most of that. Also, Operation Talkative, we haven't mentioned this for a while, but there's a poster that will be sent out with the bulletin to remind you to circulate that with your families and parents around your school, around your setting, to remind people to report knife activity in a preventative and disruptive way, to take that off the streets. The safeguarding audit, I have to mention that time is coming closer to when it has to be submitted. So if you haven't done so, you've got until next Wednesday, the 26th of March, to do that. Otherwise, Sophie will be chasing you. So please do bear that in mind. And if you have any problems, please do get in touch and let us know. Thank you for mentioning LifeSpace there. Thank you. So Sophie will be chasing you on that one. And just to mention,
when I originally came up with the idea to set up the Breck Foundation, it was from going to.
There we go. So I just wanted to mention this again, because this is more grooming than child exploitation. But we mentioned the Breck Foundation as part of our internet safety package last time. So I'll just mention that again in case you're not aware of it. If you could pop your microphone on mute, that'd be really appreciated. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I'm just going to have to mute you, I'm afraid. Apologies. Sophie, if you can do that for me, if I can't do it at the moment, I'm afraid. Okay, next slide. So moving on to the next slide. Seems to be stuck. I think it's because of the video. So bear with me a second.
To schools, talking to adults and professionals, friends.
Apologies, it's the video playing on autoplay. Okay, so I just want to mention, we couldn't invite them because we've got too many speakers today, but young people, Voice Influence and Change team try to get young people's voices heard in Warwickshire, and there are a number of different things that they're wanting to work with schools and settings about. There is a youth conference coming up on the 25th of April, and I'd encourage you to encourage your young people in your setting to take part in that. It's in the Easter holidays, but there are videos of last year's one, and it looks amazing. I'm going to try and go myself, and there are some little segments in today's package which include a young person's view on exploitation, generally a section on a child in care's view on exploitation, and a migrant and asylum seeker's view on child exploitation. We'll show a few clips of those as well, but we'll send you the poster for the youth conference, and there are a number of other different ways that you can be involved, which include, there might be a slide out of sequence, which include groups for young people with SEND and other youth council type activities. But without further ado, I'll ask Alex to join us, and Alex Alex has asked if she can just share this information as part of a study that she's doing. Are you with us, Alex?
I
you
am.
may
Can
be
you
on the next
okay?
screen. I'm going to flick over screens because I've got screens. Okay, bear with. I can hear you, but I can't see you. But no problem.
Okay.
I'll go on to your slide,
Brilliant.
and then if you could just tell us a little bit about what you're doing,
Yeah,
just briefly, that would be really appreciated. Thank you.
that's great. Thank you for your time. Thanks for having me, Carl. I promise not to take up too much of your time. I just want to introduce myself. My name's Alex Wilson. I've worked in education in Warwickshire for nearly 11 years and have been DSL trained for about 8 years. I'm currently conducting research through the University of Aberdeen, looking into how schools can support children who are accused of child-on-child sexual assault. This is something we've seen an increase of in my setting, and I know the figures nationally back that up. I'm hoping some of you on this meeting would be open to talking to me about your experience in working with these children and what you see as the challenges you're facing. So who I'm looking for, DSL trained, who deals with allegations of child-on-child sexual assault. It doesn't necessarily have to be the named lead, but if you're not sure, have a chat with me. I've kept this as really tight as possible because I know how busy you are. So I'm looking for, it's a pre-questionnaire and then a Teams call of absolutely maximum an hour. I think it will be probably quite less than that. I'm not looking for identifiable information on children, and all responses are anonymised so that in the final work, neither you nor the setting actually need the local authority will be identifiable. And finally, why? Figures that released this week show recorded child sexual abuse and exploitation offences in 2023. Half were committed by children aged 10 to 17. So if we also consider that research showed us that as many as 66% of children who commit these crimes are victims of trauma and abuse themselves, it really brings it into focus how important this issue is. On the screen in front of you is my contact email through the university and a QR code for the participant information sheet. I'll also hang around at the end of the meeting if anybody wants to chat. It would be really, really great to speak to some of you and understand, what you think and get your views on how the system is set up and what can be done to improve
Brilliant.
it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Alex. And Alex works in Warwickshire, but he's studying in Aberdeen, which is a long way away. I hope you haven't got to go there regularly. But
I've never been yet, but I will be going for the graduation.
But I think it's really relevant to what we're doing in Warwickshire. So it's really great. It's great to have some action research going on. So thank you, Alex. Please do get in touch with her if you can assist. Okay, just a quick mention. I think somebody will mention this later. There's the Intel Protect form when you want to flag up concerns without making a referral to the police or front door, which somebody's going to cover later, but also the document we'll send you when to call the police. And that helps with you understanding when something crosses that threshold of being a crime. So we'll share that with you as well. And I'm just going to mention Operation Guarding and Operation Encompass there as well as part of child exploitation that you can subscribe to. Somebody else is going to mention the student voice in a practical way, but I just want to flag that up to you again as being really, really good practice where young people can comment on their well-being, and that can then be joined together with other schools and the rest of the school and build up a picture of what's going on in your area. It would be amazing to have more areas using that system, and I'm not getting any money for advertising it. It's just a really good system. Okay, just to mention quickly, the DSL updates, we've now got all the dates for the next DSL clusters, so they will be shared with you on Heads Up as well tomorrow, but just to let you know that those next dates have been published. And the next session that we're going to be doing is on Vogue, and that shouldn't be May, that should be April. So sorry about that, but we will correct that and make sure that you get those dates again.
I've mentioned May, actually, Carl.
It is May, is it? Oh, apologies.
Yeah, because of Easter.
Because of Easter. I knew we'd had to move it because we'd had to set it back because of the Easter holiday. Thank you, Sophie. This was meant to be with the young people's voices section, so I'll move that slide. But those are all the different ways that young people can get involved. So please do, as part of Families First Pathfinder, encourage young people to get involved and have their voice heard. There's really good videos that I would love you to see, but I think I might have to say we'll watch these further on. But I'll play a short clip from each one, and you can watch the full video in your own time.
What do you think it means to be exploited?
I think it's when someone is being used against their will, for example, for their body or to get money from their work.
And I think it's when someone is taking advantage of someone or treating them unfairly. There is more than one way that this can happen. None of them is good.
What things do you think makes young people feel unsafe?
I see this happen when friends peer pressure us into doing things we don't want to do, like smoking, drugs or drinking alcohol. This can also lead to addiction and all sorts of other problems. We feel too scared to say no because of what our peers will say.
Okay, I'm going to move on. It's really good. And these are clips from the young people from Warwickshire that did the youth conference last year. Again, this came in today, and I think this is worth showing a short clip of. I think this is what it's all about in many ways in terms of the impact of child sexual abuse and exploitation. So I'm going to try and play you a short clip and hope that it works. But I really would recommend. There is a trigger warning on this as well.
Each year, we analyse the scale and nature of child sexual abuse and exploitation crimes, or CSAE, recorded by police across England and Wales. This helps to prevent and reduce harm to children by supporting more targeted and effective responses. Around 115,000 CSAE offences were recorded in 2023. This reflects a long-term trend of increased reporting to the police. However, not all offences are reported. Estimates suggest that as many as 500,000 children may be sexually abused in England and Wales every year. CSAE is a gendered crime. 82% of the perpetrators recorded were male, while 79% of victims were female. In-person or contact abuse accounted for 68% of the offences. The most common crime type was sexual assault. 80% of the victims knew their abuser, and almost a third of the reported crimes occurred within the family environment.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. I'm trying to stop it there. And I'd really recommend people watching that recording. I'm just going to try and take it off the screen. If you can bear with me a second, I've lost my slides, but that's come through today with a lot of data, which I think people will find really, really useful. And I've put a summary on the next slide. Bear with me 1 second. There we go. Put a summary on here of the main statistics, which you may want to use for a staff meeting in your setting, and that's latest up-to-date information. I'll move forward quickly. Some slides from last year, which you might find useful if you're talking to staff members about this subject, signs and symptoms, and what to do, and we might cover that later on. Some of the package that's come out, which is a marvelous package of so much stuff about Child Exploitation Week, is available there. It's been sent out in multiple ways to all the different settings, and there's an awful lot going on. There are all of these activities which are going on at the moment, all of these activities, and these two are accessible for parents. So if you haven't sent it out already, please do. And then we've got some more videos, but I'm going to skip over the next video. It's really, really good videos about young people's point of view. And I'm going to move on to introducing Harrison, our second speaker, I should say. Harrison, are you with us? And I'll stop sharing I'll keep my screen on. Are you with us there?
I am, yes.
Can you hear me? Thank you. Okay. I can hear you. You're on my other screen. That's what it is. Thanks for joining us, Harrison. Your details are on the screen. Do you want to introduce yourself, and I'll click your slides forward? Is that all right?
Yes, perfect. Thank you. I feel like it's going to be very Chris Whitty during COVID. My name's Harry Payton. I am the Trafficking and Exploitation Coordinator at Warwickshire Police. Some of you might know me. I know I've come out to quite a few different schools and safeguarding clusters to talk about sort of different bits. Really, I'm here today just to talk about the Trafficking and Exploitation team at Warwickshire Police and some of the disruption that we look at sort of using around exploitation, just so you will have sort of a better idea. And also, I tried to do something a little bit different in terms of not covering the same topics again and again and again.
Thank you.
So the T&E team, as you can see on the screen, went live in April 2023. So we're just coming up to our second birthday. We're split into, so we've got a north team based up in Bedworth, and then a south team at Leamington Justice Centre. The south team's co-located alongside FAST, which is the extra familial harm team within Children's Services, Warwickshire based, which is Bernardo's exploitation team, and our police missing team. We're still quite a small team, so we've got 2 sergeants, 10 DCs, and me. But before the team went live, it was just 1 sergeant and a coordinator. So trying to juggle the force's response to exploitation was quite challenging. So now we've got an actual team, and we're getting better at sort of our response and responding to sort of concerns. If I could have the next slide, please. Oh, I don't know why it's come up so weird. That's annoying. If you just keep clicking, this is just to give you an overview as to sort of how the team's split up and made. So you can see we've got the north team, which also covers the east, and then a team in the south, and me and Paula, who sort of sit in the middle and oversee a few different bits and bobs. You can go on to the next slide.
Okay. Carl. Oh, sorry. There was a couple more. I wasn't expecting those.
So this is just an overview of some of the live operations that we've got going on currently. Our team deals with complex and serious organised exploitation. So as you can see from sort of the operations that we've got, we're talking about sort of investigations where there's either multiple victims or multiple suspects, and really sort of complex investigations. So these are sort of all investigations that we're juggling at the minute, and we've also moved from just dealing with child exploitation as the T&E team. We deal with adult exploitation as well, adult sex work, labour, abuse, and modern-day slavery, which sort of is that blue-looking column on the end. So yeah, quite a wide range of investigations. And then in terms of the role of our team, so we attend CSM meetings, which were formerly MACE meetings, and we sort of explore exploitation concerns within those meetings and proactively consider ways in which we can disrupt and investigate complex child exploitation. We look at disruption, which I'll talk about in a little while. We offer specialist advice, so if any of you are ever concerned about a child and have got any exploitation concerns, and I need to stop saying child because I know that you'll probably come into contact with some vulnerable adults as well, and parents, and older siblings of young people that attend your provisions that you might have concerns about. Please feel free to contact either myself or the team. We're always more than happy to give advice and give pointers. And then we also have responsibility for the NRNs, which I'll talk about in a little while. Some mapping and partner intelligence, which I know was already touched on very briefly. Next slide, please. So just sort of some key headline statistics from us. So last year in 2024, we safeguarded over 100 young people. That's sort of meaningful safeguarding. You'll see at the bottom of that top 2024 slide. So we debriefed 165 young people where we were concerned about exploitation, and then over 100 young people safeguarding. Not every child who we complete an exploitation debrief with necessarily needs really robust or meaningful safeguarding around them. It can be quite minor things, but we're quite proud that actually we've identified 100 young people where we have needed to sort of do a little bit more of the hard graft around the safeguarding and look at sort of more robust safety planning. We've issued 34 child abduction warning notices last year and 30 child exploitation warning notices last year. I'll come on to both of those in a minute. And currently in 2025, I know we're in March, that still feels really early into the new year. Already this year, we've got 56 current live investigations where the victim is under the age of 18, which is, I think it just goes to show that exploitation is still something that is really prevalent in Warwickshire and is an issue. I think as a county, from outsiders looking in, we get this perception of us that actually sleepy Warwickshire, nothing bad happens here. It does, and it's something that we always need to be mindful of. And already this year we've issued 5 Vaughan's child abduction warning notices and 1 exploitation warning notice to an adult. So we're already having to look at some of that disruption and safety planning. The next slide, please. Perfect. So CORNs, for those that don't know, so a child abduction warning notice. This is probably the most sort of useful tool in the arsenal. So CORNs can be issued by us to disrupt any contact between a child and an adult where we are concerned that there's sort of a risky association occurring. So with the CORNs, if they are still under parental responsibility, so still at home, not on a care order, we can issue those up to 16 years of age. If they're under local authority care, we can go up to 18. Basically, what the CORN does is it states that the suspect has no permission to associate with the child. There's lots of sort of subsections within that around they can't be at their address, they can't have any telephone communication, etc., etc. And actually, if they continue to do so, they could be arrested for an abduction offence under the Child Abduction Act. Non-compliance with the CORN isn't a criminal offence, so it's not like if you breached a different sort of civil order, you might be looking at a criminal offence. But CORNs provide evidence to support a prosecution. So if we found that somebody was breaching a CORN, for example, we might then look to arrest that person, not for the breach of the CORN as an offence, but for child abduction, and then use that CORN as an evidential sort of baseline and say, we've previously been concerned about this adult and contacting this child, and they're continuing to do so. We believe this constitutes an offence. And CORNs, because it names a child and identifies a child to the perpetrator, it can be quite a quick cut way to sort of nip things in the bud. We know that they're effective. I think I've got some stats on the next page. We know that they're effective and they're still really useful, and they're used nationally and recognised sort of by the Home Office and the government, and are really successful. We also have the Child Exploitation Warning Notice, which we call a SOON. These aren't as sort of widely used, and there's no national legislation around the SOON. So these have been adapted over time from Merseyside Police, who originally started using them. We have been using them since May 2023, so a month after the TNE team came into sort of existence. They're only used by a small number of forces, so at the minute there's 6 forces that are using them. 3 more are looking to roll out their version in the coming months, which I'm currently supporting them with. So I've got a meeting tomorrow with Dorset, West Midlands are looking at it, and I've just had a meeting with the Met around theirs, and they're just at the sort of their legal team are reviewing it. And it's a really good piece of disruption that Warwickshire's really been at the forefront of, alongside Merseyside and Hampshire, and we're quite proud of the SOONs. So SOONs are a warning letter that have been sort of tailored to warn potential perpetrators that we're concerned around their association with young people. It doesn't name young people, so we can serve this in respect of a group of young people or sort of wider concerns. And the sort of baseline threshold for issuing a SOON is, you could consider it lower, perhaps. The only difference between the CORNs and the SOONs is that SOONs don't really have evidential value. I say that with a sort of little asterisk in my mind, because actually we can still say we've issued one of these letters previously, which is a warning, and we've been concerned that this adult is potentially involved in exploiting young people, and there's sort of risky relationships there. The SOON, the way it's designed both to offer a sort of safeguarding arm and a support arm to potential perpetrators as well. So within these, they state where sort of vulnerable adults who we might be concerned is now facilitating the exploitation of others could go and get support from. We know that a lot of perpetrators of exploitation have at some stage probably been exploited themselves, and might still be being exploited themselves, and actually we still have a duty of care to those people. So they outline sort of support services for those, and also where they can get sort of safeguarding support from. and I've put in the blue box there. So we've done a comparison of the exploitation warning notices versus the abduction warning notices, and where we know that they've been sort of breached, for lack of a better term. 8% of SOONs that we've issued in the last year, we're on sort of similar numbers for SOONs and corns. Only 8% of SOONs have been breached, for lack of a better word, compared to 23% of corns. That's still quite good numbers for both. Exploitation warning notices obviously looking a little bit better there, and we think that's because of how they're worded and how they're set out. They are, like I say, they're designed to be a psychological deterrent, and sort of the wording is quite emotive and quite powerful on those to warn off perpetrators. Next slide, please. So the NRM, the National Referral Mechanism, I'm sure everyone here has heard about this multiple times. I have the privilege of reviewing every NRM that's submitted where exploitation has occurred in Warwickshire. So I get to review all of them when they come into Warwickshire Police.
I'm not sure everybody will know what an NRM is. I know sometimes people get quite worried about criminality in the school, and there's that reaction where, you know, we need to exclude or we need to suspend somebody and do those actions. Can you just explain briefly what the NRM is, please, Harrison? Do you mind? Thanks.
Yes. I will potentially butcher this, so Nigel, if I do, feel free to correct me. So the NRM is a Home Office scheme which is essentially set up to recognise potential victims of exploitation. So there is a duty of responsibility on classified first responder organisations. So that includes police, children's services, youth justice, Barnardos, immigration and border force, and a load of other sort of agencies, that when they suspect somebody has been a victim of exploitation and is potentially a victim of exploitation, they should refer that individual into the NRM, which is the National Referral Mechanism. For children and young people, they don't have to consent to be referred, and there's not, in terms of the threshold, the sort of definition is where it's suspected but cannot be proven. So where you as a professional believe or suspect that a child has been a victim of exploitation, you should be considering referring them into the NRM. Nigel's come off mute, so I don't know if he's going to correct me.
I was just going to emphasise victims of modern slavery, Harry. So where they've been trafficked as part of their exploitation, that's when we all have a duty to notify and refer into the national mechanism, which is the NRM process. Yeah. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you.
I can just chip in as well, just reminding everybody that these young people, or if they may have committed offences, they are victims, aren't they? And the victim blaming aspect is something we want to draw people's attention to as well. Sorry to chip in as well, Harry.
No. It's so right. So when a young person, for example, gets referred into the National Referral Mechanism, their schools and education provisions should be contacted for sort of their view and sort of any information that they might hold, which will help the Home Office and the panel to make a decision as to whether or not they are a potential victim. When somebody's submitted to the NRM, if they have committed a crime, they can sort of use the NRM as part of their Section 45 defence, which basically means that they've been coerced into committing a crime. And that's why they've done it. It's not a get out of jail free card by any means. However, we know that judges will take it into consideration. If a young person has committed a crime but they have an NRM, they'll take that into consideration alongside their sentencing, because we know that young people are getting arrested for drug offences, but we know that they've been exploited to commit those offences, and so it's trying to make sure that actually the victims are recognised within that. So if you're working with young people and you're concerned that they're potentially a victim, and you're not sure if they've got an NRM, please ask the question to social workers. Please make those front door referrals, because it is really, really important, and it can have a huge impact. And there's commission services through the NRM which will pick up additional support for young people and adult victims. This map here is just to give you a bit of an overview of what we were looking like last year for NRM statistics. So last year there was 113 NRMs submitted, so 113 referrals where the exploitation has occurred in Warwickshire. 70 of those were for young people, and you can see the sort of breakdown here. So 22 of those were in Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough, 26 in Warwick District, 8 in Stratford, 5 in Rugby, 4 in North Warwickshire. And just to further break that down, out of those young people, 50 of those concerns were child criminal exploitation concerns. 2 were for labour exploitation and 18 were for sexual exploitation. So it's just about sort of recognising, we're really good at recognising criminal exploitation, sort of okay at sexual exploitation, but perhaps not as great at labour exploitation. And it's just to make sure we're keeping all of that in mind. And so far in 2025, at Warwickshire Police, we've received 16 referrals for young people. So that's 16 instances where the exploitations occurred in Warwickshire. Again, we're only on the 18th of March, so it's really early to the year. The Modern Slavery and Exploitation Helpline, this is something that's growing as well, and we're getting more referrals through this way. This is for members of the public who can call up this helpline 24/7 and essentially report any concerns to us anonymously. It comes through in sort of a redacted package, but if you're interacting with people, if you are getting things reported to you by parents about their neighbour and they're concerned about something, you can be signposting them to this helpline if they don't want to contact the police. And again, that comes through to us and it's all sort of anonymised and redacted before it reaches us. And then I've put about partner intel on here again. Just really, really important to stress, we always need intelligence. It's no secret the police just doesn't have the resources to police everything and be everywhere all the time and be out on the streets responding. So we're trying to be more sort of clever in the way that we react and respond to things. And if we get intelligence in around concerns around locations or people, it can help us plug the gaps in jigsaws and be the missing piece. And it lets us know where we need to be concentrating our efforts and actually what we need to be responding to. And I can promise you every intel form that comes in, no matter how small it seems, gets reviewed, there's development that's done around that intel, and something happens with it. We always do something with that. So it's really, really important that those submissions
we will send that form out to everybody in case some of you aren't familiar with it. And if you need any advice on completing it, I'm sure we can help you out with that. I'll move on. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew about that form. Thank you.
Perfect. And then the last thing from me, I just wanted to include a little bit about Make Safe, because it's something I'm really proud of. And I think it's something that potentially everyone here could be playing a bit more of a role in terms of letting us know if they hear anything again through intel. So we're now running Operation Make Safe, which is essentially a test purchasing operation using undercover cadets and plainclothes police officers to see how licensed premises would respond to an exploitation scenario. At the minute, it's being targeted primarily at hotels. We're going to be rolling this out a little bit wider than just hotels. So we're looking at bars and restaurants, taxis, etc., etc. So again, if anyone has any concerns around any licensed premises, please feel free to submit it on partner intel forms. It's something, this is going to be an ongoing thing now, and I'm really excited about it because it's all been working really well, and we're doing our next test purchasing operation with the cadets tomorrow night, which is why I'm so frazzled, because I'm trying to
could that include vapes as well, Harry? Could that include illegal selling of vapes to young people as well?
Yeah, so anything like that, that's covered by a slightly different operation. So corner shops, for example, where they're selling vapes and alcohol to underage kids is sort of another operation which is managed by a different team. But anything like that where you get information around shops that are selling vapes or alcohol to kids, or pubs or hotels, anything.
The main thing is to get it on a form and send it in and let you guys sort out who's going to deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. And like I say, we're test purchasing hotels tomorrow night. I think in 2 weeks' time they're doing the corner shops and the vapes again. and that's something that's been established for years and is continuing to roll out, and it's ongoing. So yeah, and there's just contact details there for us as well. So you've got the trafficking team and the missing persons team. If you need anything at all, please feel free to drop me an email. I'm chronically on my laptop, so feel free to email.
Really appreciate your time, taking the time to spend with us. Thank you. I don't know if you've been out to all of our clusters yet, but it may be cluster chairs that will encourage you to come in and talk for a little bit longer, where you've got a bit more time to meet some of the DSLs in the local area. But thanks very much for your time today, and I'm sure the slides will be really useful. And if you stay around to the end, that would be really appreciated if there's any questions. Thanks ever so much. Right, and Harry's details there. Thank you very much. We're going to go on to John now. Sorry to keep you waiting, John, who is a community safety team leader for the Warwick area. Are you with us? There we are. Same, John as well. Welcome. And also, I know you've been to some of our cluster meetings, and some people may have heard you speak before, but I'd encourage any cluster chairs to, well, I suppose it's relevant to your area, isn't it, John? There are equivalents of you in different parts of the county, but I'll let you take over. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Carl. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to come and speak this afternoon about sort of showcasing some of the work we're doing across the local authority area. I am conscious that there will be attendees on the call that work outside of the Warwick district. However, broadly speaking, all of the community safety teams across the county deliver on similar things, so I hope you find it useful. So just a bit of scene setting. Who am I and where do I come from? So essentially, I'm the team leader, so operational oversight of the community safety team for Warwick District Council. The team is made up of a team of community safety officers, CCTV operators, and quite a new service for us that's only been with us sort of in development for the last sort of 12 months or so is the community warden service, which is a high visibility on the ground service, gathering intelligence and enhancing feelings of safety. So if we move on to the next slide, please, Carl. Thank you. So Warwick District Council fall under the South Warwickshire Community Safety Partnership, and essentially that places a duty on us and other responsible authorities to reduce crime and disorder and protect vulnerable people from harm. So that partnership includes Warwickshire Police, Stratford District Council, Warwickshire Fire and Rescue, Probation and Health, and we all work together to form a strategic priority plan on a 4-year cycle, which is on your screen at the moment. So this was recently adopted last month. So this is what our main areas of focus will be over the next 4 years. And as you can see at the top there, violent crime is very much top of the agenda. And within that falls exploitation and county lines. So that's going to be a key focus area, and it has been actually for the last 4 years as well. Next slide, please. Thank you. So, yeah, county lines and exploitation of young people is a massive concern for us. And as Harry rightly mentioned earlier, there is a perception sometimes that Warwickshire is all sunshine and roses, and actually the real picture is quite different. And county lines for us is a real concern. The picture you can see on your screen there of the police cars and the crime scene was actually from the Tatchbrook Road in Leamington back in 2020, and that really put county lines on the map, I think, in the district and actually the county. It was the murder of a 17-year-old boy called Nazir Patrice. He was from Lewisham in London. He was exploited by criminal gangs in the capital and sent to Leamington to deal Class A drugs, and unfortunately came into contact with a rival gang from Birmingham and lost his life. And that was a real eye-opener for us and partners as to the scale of county lines operations across Warwickshire. So the recruitment model, we see it all the time in our places and spaces where young people are coerced, they're bought gifts, they feel like a sense of belonging, and before they know it, they've been exploited into running drugs and sitting up in some of our properties across the district. So young people can be exploited very quickly from experience. and the prevalence of violence and violence, including weapons, is something that we're seeing a lot more often, unfortunately. And the picture on the right there is of a zombie style machete that was found by one of our community wardens after a conversation with a young person, and he'd raised concerns about his friend who was potentially involved in running Class A drugs across Leamington. And they disclosed to us the location of that, and it was actually located in a children's play area in Leamington. So taken off the street, and then there was follow up by Warwickshire Police in line with their Operation Talkative campaign. There was a good bit of partnership work there to take that weapon off the street and actually get the young person the support that they needed. Next slide, please. So yeah, just wanted to talk a little bit about our principles within the community safety team. And first and foremost, it's about creating safe spaces for children and young people, and indeed the wider community. We're very much intelligence led, so we look at trends, we look at community survey feedback, and very proficient indeed at getting external funding into the team to deliver on projects. So a classic example would be the Eagle Recreational Ground in South Leamington. This is a green space that has had a lot of county lines activity and exploitation over the years. And we received some Safer Streets funding from the Home Office to actually improve the lighting, a bit of foliage management, and to install 2 CCTV cameras in that location to really build the intelligence picture. And that's gone on to really assist the police and partners in making some arrests and safeguarding some young people. So we're all about creating those safe spaces. Goes without saying, working collaboratively with our partners is really important, and key to that is effective information sharing. I think people sometimes are a little reluctant to share information. We're all signed up to the Warwickshire Information Sharing Agreement, which gives us that legal framework to share. And I've never known anybody get into trouble for oversharing. It's the undersharing really where the consequences sometimes lie.
Can I just mention, John, the link to the clusters as well, the DSL clusters, which I know you speak at, and all all of this intelligence is useful both from the partner intel form, but also talking to DSLs in the local areas, and that's why I'd really encourage people to participate, because I think some of those actions like cameras and things have been a result of talking to colleagues in schools. Is that right?
Absolutely, and I think before the clusters, there was a bit of a gap there between the local authority and school settings. So to have those in place is really valuable for us as a community safety partnership. So, myself and my team will continue to engage in those cluster meetings. So that's been a really positive thing to come around. And then around sort of the disruption tactics. So we're very much intelligence led. We will go where the issues are. We've got a fantastic CCTV team who are the eyes in the sky, if you will, that have got a lot of coverage of our town centres and parks and green spaces. And then our wardens, again, will be the high visibility presence on the street to gather that information and then feed that back through the Protect form that Harry described in the last slides. And then I think finally, and I'd be surprised if not, everyone is sort of bought into this, the concept of contextual safeguarding. We can't treat a child in isolation and view them as an island, so to speak. We've got to understand, the impact that other environments and other peers and influences have on the young person, really, to shape our response. So that's kind of our principles in a nutshell. Next slide, please. And then more around the operational approach. I've touched on it already, but the high visibility patrols in hotspot places to disrupt opportunities to exploit is really important, and also safeguard those that are being exploited. Our wardens complement the work of the Safer Neighbourhoods team. As Harry mentioned, police resources are stretched, so we kind of bolster the uniformed presence to assist them. Another real powerful thing for us is joint engagement with youth outreach. So we do a lot of work with a fantastic charity called Young People First, who I believe are in some of the schools as well within the district, I think Oakley. And they do such a fantastic job of breaking down those barriers for our team, and actually crewing one of their outreach workers with a community warden has proved really effective, because our wardens are now seen as safe adults. A lot of the time, young people put the barriers up when they see a uniform. So to have broken down those barriers and having that relationship with young people has been really powerful for us. The intelligence I've already touched on. Expansion of CCTV again, I've touched on, but the Help Point network is something that probably needs a little bit more promotion from our side. So we've got 14 emergency help points across the district. They're yellow boxes as a picture on the next slide. And essentially, members of the public can hit those if they are in an emergency situation, and that will go through to our CCTV control room. And then the CCTV operator is trained to deal in emergency situations. They can give support and advice. And if it needs to be escalated to the police, it can be very quickly, because we are in possession of a police radio in the control room, so we can get straight through to the officers. And majority of calls we get on them are drunk people ordering a kebab on a Friday night or asking for a taxi. However, we have had several incidents of exploitation reported to us through those help points over the last sort of 10 or 15 years that they've been in place.
Would I be right in saying that if sorry to interrupt, young people, if they were out in town on a Saturday and, obviously not taking advantage of this and messing about, but, if they were worried about gangs or worried about other youth people, would they be allowed to use those as well?
Absolutely.
If that was appropriate. So we could educate young people, teenagers particularly, about, if they're feeling vulnerable, they've got access to that as well in their local area.
Yeah, definitely. So the majority are in Leamington. We do have one in Warwick, one in Whitnash, one in Lillington, and then the most recent one, which is pictured on the next slide, is in Kenilworth, Abbey End. So you see the picture of that on the next slide. But in terms of the Community Warden Service, you can see them there. So they're all uniformed up. Really good team, really proactive, great relationship with young people. And they've all been trained. They've received St Giles training around CE, the signs to look out for, and obviously the referral pathways for young people, whether that be through to the local contextual safeguarding meeting, which I'm sure Nigel will come on to talk about later on, and the intelligence forms that Harry's obviously outlined how important they are. So that's our help point on the left-hand side, and then we've got the CCTV at Eagle Rec. So another thing we're really proud of is the diversionary activity that we've managed to put in place. So we've got a great relationship with LAMP, which is an alternative education provider on Adelaide Road in Leamington. So during the day, it's a school for young people that have got SEND needs. And then after hours, it becomes a music studio. So we've had 37 referrals to date of young people, and the referrals have come in from schools. Pete Hawkins put a referral through to me recently as well, and that young person is now engaging in positive sessions, making his own music tracks. They've designed a brand for him, and it just gives that young person a bit of focus. And we've got a fantastic case study actually from a young lad from Kenilworth who was being exploited by an OCG from Birmingham, and his mum was kind of just thinking, what could she do? And the only hobby he had was music. And so we actually got him into LAMP as well, and he's done so well and pulled away from all of that criminality. So really successful. We've just expanded the subject areas to hair and makeup and computer game development. So we've got a broader set of subject areas now, and obviously hair and makeup is more suited to young girls. So we're getting a few girls in through the door as well now, which is great. And then we've got, sorry, Carl, can I just come on to Guiding Young Minds as well? So Guiding Young Minds is headed up by a chap called Anton Noble. So he's an ex-gang member from Coventry who was exploited himself. And he's done a lot of detached outreach work for us in and around the Leamington area with young people, and engaged with just over 300 people over the last summer period. He's got a minibus that's got PlayStations and Xboxes on it. So he parks it in our green spaces and engages with young people there, and sort of, talks about his journey through being exploited and getting out the other side and being, a positive influence in the community. So that's another really powerful thing that we've done as well. Thank you. Safe space. So I wanted to mention this. This is something that we're really proud of. Initially, this was set up to cater for the nighttime economy in Leamington. As most of you will know, if you've been out in Leamington on a Friday and Saturday night, it can be quite busy. We've got a massive student population, and with that comes its own issues. We did a survey with Warwick University that highlighted that a lot of students didn't feel safe whilst out and about in Leamington. They felt that they needed more support. So we identified South Lodge, which is the white building that you can see on the slide there, and it flanks the entrance to Jefferson Gardens on the parade. So I'm sure it'll be familiar to most people. It was a bit of a dumping ground for our green spaces team, so we decided to gut it and refurb it and open it on a Friday and Saturday night between the hours of 10 and 4 in the morning. And it's staffed by my team, and essentially it's for anybody who feels unsafe or in need of support. They can come in and we can triage their calls and support them and signpost them where necessary. What we found, if we go on to the next slide, is that more and more young people are accessing that safe space. When we first started, it was more sort of over 18s, but during Q4 to date, we've had 61 young people between the ages of 13 and 17 access safe space. And with a variety of issues, the vast majority of those young people come from a green space across the road, the Pump Room Gardens, which I'm sure will be familiar to most of you. And various issues that they report, whether that's peer-on-peer violence or sexual assault, exploitation. We've had a real mixed bag. So to give young people that space to come and speak to us has been really powerful. So I just really wanted to get that message out there, that resource is available to young people. And Young People First, who I mentioned earlier, do one-to-one mentoring in there as well with young people that they've got good relationships with. So it's something we're really proud of, and we're hoping, funding depending, to expand the nights of the week we can open that provision. And then just finally, just wanted to touch on the student voice. Obviously, it was in your slides earlier, Carl, but it's something, again, that we're really excited to be working with these guys on. We've currently got eight schools that the District Council have funded for 3 years to come on board with this platform. We've always found it difficult to engage with young people in terms of getting their feedback about their community and where we could potentially do better in our service delivery. Traditional methods of consultations rarely get them engaged. So we feel that this contextual safeguarding reporting tool will be a real game changer for us. I think, A, because it's on a platform that they're familiar with using, but also it's anonymous. And I think that's powerful for young people to know that they don't have to be named. And it really just captures the lived experience of young people, both at school, at home, but importantly for us in the community. So we can look at the data that comes in, and that will really help us shape our service delivery. And actually, if we can then build a culture of you said, we did, that will empower young people to think, well, actually, our voices were heard. And, the local authority or the police or school have done something about that to make us feel safer. So, like I say, 8 schools currently onboarding. We've got some further funding from the serious violence duty that's landed in the next financial year. And we're hoping to expand, so more schools within the Warwick district come on board with that. So if there's anyone on the call today that wants to have a discussion about that, I'd be keen to speak to you. And that, in a nutshell, is us. I could waffle on for a lot longer, but I'll cut it off there. And any questions at the end, I'm more than happy to answer.
Thanks, John. That's really useful, and I appreciate that you're doing this from a Warwick and Leamington perspective, and doing a brilliant job in that area. There are, I know on one of my slides, I've got all the contact details for your equivalent in the different parts of the county, and there will be activities going on there as well. But there's some really good stuff there that could be used elsewhere if it's not already. And we've mentioned the VR headsets and things like that. There's lots of good stuff, and that student voice is really really useful. And I know off the top of my head, I know there are a number of schools in the rugby area that use it, and I've encouraged them to do it as well, because you can work towards sharing all of that data across the schools, across the area, and finding out more about the safe places and unsafe places, which can lead to that intel, which helps make it safer. So thanks very much, John. Sorry to rush through, but really appreciate that, and please do stay on, and really appreciate it. I'll just quickly mention before our final speaker, Nigel, please do stay with us, that we have got more really good videos here, including this one, which is about trafficking.
Can I get your thoughts on exploitation and young asylum seekers?
Yeah, that's fine.
So do you have any examples of this at all?
Yeah, I know some young people are getting trouble, like using other account, Uber account, or delivery account, whatever, and then just they working for the owners. They just get less money.
And
yeah, for example, I know someone as well, like he get in the same situation with the drug seller, and then he couldn't get off from it.
And then back to you, what else do you think?
Yeah, I know also some people are getting exploited by smuggler, and then they help you to get out of your country, and when you cross over Europe or wherever the country, they will call you. If you don't send them money, we're gonna hurt your family or one of the family.
Okay.
Can I get your thoughts on exploitation?
Okay, so there's really good videos there relevant to Warwickshire, and smuggling. We don't think of your food deliveries being potential trafficking, but that just shows that there are all sorts of different ways that can happen. Sorry to keep you waiting, Nigel, and thanks for joining us. Please do stay with us, people, and this. All of the content that's been sent out to schools. We have to thank Nigel and his team for some fantastic resources that have been sent to you. I'll hand swiftly over to you, Nigel, if that's okay. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Carl. Very mindful of the time, so I promise I won't keep everybody more than a few minutes extra. Yeah, I'm Nigel Jones. I'm from the Family and Adolescent Support Team within Children and Families in Warwickshire County Council. There isn't really time to talk to you about our service, but very briefly, we support young people 11 to 18 years of age who are exposed to exploitation and other forms of harm outside the home. So with things also like peer violence, gang activity and peer abuse. And we seek to engage them in a range of activities focused on raising awareness and reducing risks. We've got hubs in the north, south and east of the county. And just very briefly to highlight, we have an education support worker in the team, Amy J. Patel. Hopefully a lot of you have come across Amy Jade. But if you haven't, please make contact with her. Carl shared her details much earlier in the slideshow. Amy J's focus is on those children known to the exploitation service who aren't receiving education. She does a lot of work by engaging with the children, families and the school, i.e. yourselves, to ensure that they're provided with suitable education or training opportunities as expeditiously as possible. So she's a really good resource that can also provide you with advice and guidance around exploitation.
And she works brilliantly with our team in the MAP to multi-age child protection team as well, yeah. where more information is needed. It's amazing.
Yeah. My predominant purpose is to talk to you today about CE Awareness Day. If we could just slip back to the last slide. Sorry,
of course, yeah. Of course.
So every year we support National Child Exploitation Awareness Day on the 18th of March, and for the last 5 or 6 years we've decided to extend this to a week-long campaign aimed at awareness raising. And in 2025, our campaign-specific messages are based around our current challenges. And I think we've got about 5 this year. As you heard within that clip that Carl showed from the Vulnerability Knowledge and Practice Programme, in fact, I think Carl stopped it just before we got to this bit, but nearly half of exploitation is peer exploitation. and nearly half of that is related to image sharing, sextortion, and online exploitation. So we have a particular focus on those aspects this year within our campaign. And within that, the use of artificial intelligence technology, the creation of deep fakes by using people's faces, especially children and young people, and imposing those onto naked images. That's a real focus for us this year. A second theme is, I don't know if you remember Elon Musk creating a bit of a furore with his tweet a few months ago about grooming gangs. That raised the issue nationally again, actually, and brought the focus back onto sexual exploitation and organised abuse. So we've got a specific focus on social media and grooming gangs this year. Vaping related exploitation and drug-laced vapes, quite an issue for us at the moment. Other speakers have spoken about that, and I'm sure you're seeing that issue within the schools. So we're raising awareness about that as a theme this year. And last but not least, knife crime and the links of knife crime to criminal exploitation. That continues to be prevalent in the county, as you've just heard from John Barnett, actually, from Warwick District Council. So we also continue to have a focus on that. Our plans through the week were wide-ranging, including community outreach, advertising on boards and buses, sharing of messages via social media, and some enforcement activity that Harry touched upon in his presentation that are going to be conducted through the week, targeting child exploitation. We've developed a communications toolkit for schools to use to support the campaign. It's been widely distributed, so hopefully it will have worked its way through to many of you in the call. Within that, there's a range of resources, such as a general news release that we've used for Awareness Week, an article that you can use yourselves about how to spot the signs and where to go to report exploitation, a newsletter for parents. Please do use that to supply to parents, awareness raising about exploitation. An email banner. I've got my team's background on, actually, and there's also an email banner that you can use along with other social media assets for sharing on various online platforms. Some useful resources that you can use in the school about vaping, including a presentation that can be utilised in a class session if that's possible for you. And there's lots of short video clips also that you can use to highlight child exploitation. So please do have a look about what's available within that toolkit and use it to support awareness raising. Next slide, Carl. I think you put something on about victim blaming. So I will just very briefly touch on this. We've done a lot of work over the last few years to eradicate what's referred to as victim blaming language. We should always remember that a victim is never to blame for the abuse that they experience, and being careful about using appropriate language is really important for all of us that work with children. It definitely has an impact on how they feel and how other professionals perceive certain situations. There's some examples of alternative language to use within that slide for things that we all too often hear, like putting themselves at risk, drug running, being involved in child exploitation, none of which are empowering to children. So there's some alternatives that are offered for you rather than speaking in those terms. And there's a 7-minute briefing that we've produced actually about victim blaming language, and that's on the slide, but also available on the Warwickshire Safeguarding Partnership website. And there's training also delivered by our Barnardo's colleagues. One of the sessions about victim blaming language is being run this week as part of Awareness Week. So do sign up to that if you can. Next slide, Carl. I won't touch much on this. Everybody's highlighted that, child exploitation continues to be a real issue for us here in Warwickshire. We're at the beck of, Coventry, Birmingham. You've heard about London as well. children travelling into and out of Warwickshire for things like county lines. So it's a real issue for us and continues to be so. We identified and supported over 200 children and young people last year, and the campaign we're running through the week is being supported by all partners. Next slide, Carl. I think I'll skip that one. There's been lots of talk about key messages around child exploitation. This one is just to signpost to the resources available around exploitation, including our own via our Something's Not Right campaign. So please do have a look at those. And there's a new Safer Internet video for younger children that would be good to show within primary schools, and there's a link to that on there as well. So I would recommend that to you. Next slide, Carl. I think Carl already covered. We've laid on a program of learning through the week. Our training is geared around the themes of Child Exploitation Awareness Week that I ran over, which includes Bernardo's sessions being run about digital dangers, child sexual exploitation, and criminal exploitation awareness, victim blaming language, as I've said, and about there's a session for parents as well in an evening. So please do plug that with your parents. And there's also a session on serious violence from our serious violence prevention officer. There's training on digital dangers and online exploitation. There's training on modern slavery that Harry spoke about earlier. And we also have training available on trauma, the impact of trauma. And alongside that, it's also Neurodiversity Celebration Week. And we've selected a range of courses that they are running to advertise those within our programme of learning through the week as well. Next slide. We are coming to an end now. Ways to get involved. We recommend 6 ways to get involved, so please do take note of these. Write a pledge on your hand to support the Helping Hands initiative. Maybe do it as a group of teachers. Take a photo and share that via social media. Conduct awareness raising in your school, if you can, using the materials and resources that we've supplied within the pack. And maybe have a stand within the foyer of your schools or within another prominent location, just to highlight child exploitation and the work that's going on to eradicate it from Warwickshire. If you're able to do a session with students about exploitation using the resources in the pack, that would be really helpful. And take a photo and share that via social media. And just generally actually use the information and resources supplied, including those on our Something's Not Right website during the course of the week. That would be greatly appreciated. Next slide, Carl. In fact, the next few slides are just about that one's about where to report. I won't say anything more about that. And the next slides are about the toolkit folder I've covered. The news releases within your toolkit, that's available in there. I've mentioned that. And the email signature video core background, I've covered that. That's also in your packs. And there's a good video that we created actually locally. It was done in a school over in Rugby. It's a good awareness raising video.
It's really good, isn't it?
So please do have a look at that. It's on something that's embedded in this these slides that you will get, but it's also on the Something's Not Right website. And then the next few slides are about the social media materials which are in your packs. Do use those and share messages via social media, whether you do that as a school or whether you do that just personally on your own. Social media, please use them, and please use the printable materials that are in your packs. Display them within your schools and use them within sessions with students as well. These are the themes that I was speaking about. I've mentioned all the themes that we're going to look at through the week. The next slide after each theme gives you some resources and links that are available that provide further information about each of those particular themes and educative material that can be used. So if you go on to the next, as an example, the next slide, there's lots of links and resources about each of those themes. You can use all of that information within your session. So if you just skip through those next slides, Carl, they cover each of those themes. Knife crime, all the useful links and resources for knife crime. Grooming gangs and social media, again, what that entails, and then the next slide again about useful links and resources about grooming gangs. Deepfakes, artificial intelligence, and peer-to-peer image sharing.
I've just dropped on the bottom there about Operation Guarding as well. I hope that's okay.
Yes.
To remind people, if you sign up for Operation Encompass, that includes Operation Guarding now, which is about self-generated pornography. And you know that does happen in Warwickshire, where people take something off your dojo or off your website and change it into a pornographic image. So that does happen. Thank you. And there's the websites.
Yeah, there's the links and resources. Vapes and child exploitation, again, what that involves. And then the next slide, useful links and resources further about vapes. And if you've got any queries or need any support around the pack, the communications pack that we've supplied to schools, Louise Lapworth is your first point of call, but you can also email me about that, and we'll answer those questions or get any materials that you need to you. But I can't emphasize enough, really. Please do use the packs provided to you and do what you can through the week to support the campaign by raising awareness within your schools. And sorry that was a quick rush through, but I'm aware of the time.
Well done. Thank you very much. That's amazing. Thank you. I mean, I think the most important thing is thank you so much for those fantastic resources as well that people can take away and use. And, you know, there's lots and lots of contacts there, Nigel. So brilliant job. And I hope it's really successful. Please do, people, share any media stuff. You've had all the websites and social media things, but please do share any work that you're doing. That would be really appreciated. And thank you, Nigel. What I'm going to do now is going to ask Sophie. We're going to say thank you all for attending. Hope it's been useful to you. What we're going to do now is switch off the recording and say thank you and have a good evening. But please do stay on if you want to ask any questions.